hopefully short response to Nick. I just wanted to finish up on a couple of stuff in his video, stuff I just don't. Some of it I think it's important, so I just figure I better mention it. Invisible hand stuff. He did a whole thing about how wonderful the invisible hand is. Blah blah blah. I will argue that there's some pieces of the economy that are tied together, like a governor. There's one goes up, the other goes up, and I'd say that wages were kind of a zero-sum thing. In that I can't remember his name. The Fed guy, Reagan's Fed guy, whatever, the Randian hot wife, ugly fucker. Anyway, that guy used to use this term zero-sum to explain to Congress about how you can't privatize Social Security, you're not going to make any money in the stock market because you're paying 7% interest on the money and blah, 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 blah. And so it's not going to work. It's an insurance fund. It's not a pension fund. Anyway, and so I like the term zero-sum. I like it conceptually. Fits a lot of things in my opinion. So I would say zero-sum is what wage inflation was. Because wage inflation is there's nothing negative about it in the sense that it creates more purchasing power. It creates more consumption, which creates, employment incentives and expansion incentives and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very positive thing in a way as a stimulant. And as long as prices and wages stay tied together in some way, the workers make out really well, which they did, right? When they had unions and they had power, they went too far up. I would make the argument that, yeah, some of the unions were just insane in their expectations. And they ended up paying for it, and, everybody did that pendulum swing thing, and all of a sudden, we decided to be, Walmart shoppers. We all decided to say, we don't want to go to work, so, yeah, let's just buy stuff instead of going to work. We'll just get a credit card. And obviously that's a big difference, right? Is that, two big factors. I would argue that there hasn't been a commensurate deflation anywhere close to the wage destruction, and that the real purchasing power of workers has been cut in half. Some estimates higher. That, the average worker earns half as much as they used to earn 40 years ago, 30 years ago, in terms of purchasing power. And that's all a byproduct of the destruction of the unions, but more importantly the inclusion of desperation wage bases for all manufacturing. So all manufacturing is now desperation wages, so there's no really good jobs, there's all a bunch of shitty jobs. So there's really just rich people and poor people now, and very few people in between. So you're either making more than $150,000 a year, or you're making less than 40. There ain't much in between. So the invisible hand ain't fixing any of that, and it's not going to fix any of that. And then the other big changes, so besides this desperation wage gain, and all those gains went to the rich because the wages went down for the workers, so even though prices are lower, which they're not, I mean, relative to wage increases, price increases are higher over that same period of time. And what the other big difference is all of the purchasing consumption now, a higher percentage of it is debt consumption. And that has no appearance of being anywhere near sustainable. None of it's ever been paid back. So it's just like issue a new credit card, put the old balance on the new credit card, put the old balance on the new credit card, put the old balance on the new, it's just, that's all they're doing. And that's not sustainable. Where's the invisible hand fixing that? It ain't going to fix that. So, again, I'm just going to argue that I don't disagree. I do disagree. I don't think prices can't go higher than consumers can afford to pay. And as most consumption in the past was by people, not the rich, okay, that would drive the economy. But there's no, the people just don't have any value to the rich anymore, right? I mean, I've made this joke, but the rich could essentially just build machines to drink Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola stock would go up, they'd get richer. They don't need workers what do they need workers for? They just need consumers, right? Just have one machine make the Coke and another machine drink the Coke, and they'll make money on both, right? They don't need people. People have no value to the rich. So that's what's really happening here. So anyway, I want to get the zero sum. Again, wage and price controls, Richard Nixon, that's where all that stuff was, important to me as a kid. I remember hearing all that shit, and I didn't know the right answer at the time, but now I do understand. I mean, the two are tied together. You can't separate the two. So that's a zero sum. And the real game is the percentage of consumption that's rental rather than ownership. And that's what a huge difference between then and now is. People aren't owning their consumption, they're renting consumption. So that's a huge disenfranchisement of the average human. And the invisible hand ain't fixing it. And alright, so I wanted to make another point about the debt thing. I just wanted to clarify, make sure again, the real key point is the money in the reserve accounts is printed money. It's not tax revenue, it's not bond money, it's printed money. And printed money is different, and it's about the mobility of the money. And that banks throughout history, and you know it, have a small percentage of cash in a vault. Bankers don't like holding cash. Nobody likes holding cash in a traditional economy, because cash is poisonous, because inflation would always eat it away. You never want to hold cash. And it's only in this bizarre economy, where there's no inflation technically, which is bullshit, but let's just say there isn't. I mean, my life is certainly getting more expensive. What I buy. So yeah, it's about this mobility thing. So velocity, right? That's the term they use, velocity. Velocity of the money. The Federal Reserve money has no velocity. Vault money has no velocity. Velocity is like what I was saying. If I have $3 trillion and I buy France, then the president of France, who now cashed the check, the bank gave him the money, blah, blah. He went through the reserve thing, went to the other bank gave the money to the president of France. Now he can buy something. He buys Hungary. Whatever. And then the president of Hungary says, I got $3 trillion. I'm going to buy Bangladesh. And that's mobile money now. So that's the point. I'm saying when it goes back into the reserves, it's going to keep, you said, well, it's just going to go from one bank to the other. Exactly. And what's it going to do while it's going from one bank to another? It's going to be buying stuff and increasing prices. Everything's going to get more expensive because there's going to be this velocity, this money that has velocity. Nobody wants the cash. They're all going to want to own something. So everybody who gets cash is going to spend it on something. So it's inflation velocity money. Get it? That's the difference. It's not dead money, it's active money. So if it leaves the reserve accounts, it becomes active money. That's why it's not leaving. Okay, now that really should be enough. All right, anyway, until next time. Thanks. Such. Enjoyed it.